Yeah, good morning all. So Hobullah has to join. I think he's finding a difficulty in joining. He has sent a message. I think he'll join at any time, sir.
Very good.
Yeah.
So Visachi, we are live. We can start.
We will commence, huh?
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Very good morning, friends. Welcome to technical session 10B. Our caption is Net Zero Water and Waste, Avoid and Reduce. I think both are very, very important, avoiding and reducing both. Basically, the theme is centered upon business needs a radical rethink and how they operate. We have got to change our thinking to get a different result. We will need to undertake end-to-end business transformation, including understanding the implications of net zero for a company's growth strategy and operating model. A net zero facility uses most of natural resources as well as follow circular economy principles with minimal adverse impacts of nature and climate. I think that is very important for sustainability angle. It also helps in reducing the amount of toxins emitted into air and water through the strategies like producer responsibility policies, green purchasing program, and expanded recycling. This session will learn from the industry experts about various approaches adopted towards net zero water and waste journey. And we have 4 speakers for this session. I will introduce the speakers as and when they are to make a presentation so that we don't mix up. The first speaker is going to be Mr. Pratish Bandyopadhyay. He is the head circular economy in Borouge. Mr. Bandyopadhyay is heading the circular economy division at Borouge. A postgraduate in plastic and polymer technology from IIT Kharagpur, as also an MBA from IIM Kolkata. He has more than 2 decades of diversified techno-commercial experience in plastic and polymer products. In Borouge, he has been driving the circular economy ambitions for more than a decade. Over to you, Pratish. We will maintain our time discipline as has been given in the agenda. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ganpati. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for Greenco and CII for giving this platform for talking about the industry experiences on circular economy. Let me share my screen. Hope this is visible now. So before going into the agenda of net zero, which Mr. Ganpati has just mentioned, we are talking about packaging, plastics and packaging. This is part of our day-to-day life now. We don't really cannot live today without the plastics packaging that we involve in our day-to-day life. But is a plastic packaging earning bad name today? Why they are earning bad name today? Because it is being seen as a polluter in the environment. It is being told that by 2050 there will be more plastic packaging available in the sea than the fishes, which is an abysmal problem, which is a mammoth problem, which is a huge problem. We all need to solve it together, and that's why circular economy is becoming important. So myself, Pratush, I am here in Indian plastic industry more than 25 years now, and I'm going to introduce this entire concept on behalf of Borouge. Let me very quickly go through the company. It's a joint venture between Borealis and ADNOC based out in UAE. We have a very good footprint in India itself. We have a global 3,000 employees with 4.5 million tons of polyolefin producer. We have 2 application or innovation center. One is UAE, one in Shanghai. What we do? We provide polymer solutions, polyolefin solutions to infrastructure. We have very good relation with many Indian city management, and we are providing a lot of infrastructural solutions to them from plastics. We do provide extensive energy solutions, including solar panels. Solutions in solar panels. We are producing polypropylene, which is converting cars to a lighter car. We have solutions. We are bringing solutions from all the way from Europe in the healthcare sector. We have precision forming solutions in the form of mulch film, greenhouse film, and also irrigation pipe. And finally, which contributes 60% of our total business, packaging, we have a very good footprint in all the sectors of packaging, be it transport packaging, food packaging, or any other form of packaging. Now, coming to the issues today the planet is facing, the negative perception plastics is getting, unless we drive and very effective and viable circular packaging solution to the market, this problem is going to last for long. So what we can do is we can create an environment where the importance of plastics will remain, but through proper waste management, we drive towards net zero or the zero waste plastic environment. What we are seeing here is by 2030, the polyolefin or the total plastics industry will have globally 650 million tons of production. And out of these 650 millions, unfortunately today, only 10% is getting recycled. 95% of the value, a hopping USD 80 to 120 billion, these resources are getting lost into the system. Unless we act fast, unless we act responsibly, this is remain as waste instead of bringing it back into the economy as resources. We all need to get a responsible behavior here. Consumer sentiments are continuously going against this. The brand owners and the regulators are coming up with their ways and ideas, and slowly the virgin plastics dependency is going to reduce. More and more recycled plastics will come into picture. What we are doing in Buruj? In Buruj, we have taken a circular ambition. In that ambition, the first thing what we did few years back is we have created a team. We have created a team which will work with marketing and another team which will work in the innovation front. So these two teams together, they will promote a lot of circular economy solutions in packaging market. What we are also doing is we are working very closely with all the value chain partners, and that value chain partners will implement those solutions that we are bringing. Our approach will be two areas where we will commercialize new solutions so that the post-consumer recycling is becoming easy. In that way, we'll work with our value chains for the design part. And although we are a virgin plastics producer, what we are bringing is we are adding recyclates into our portfolio. That means Buruj is going to bring recycled polyolefins to its customer so that the total solution is available to them. In the process, we are working very closely with governments, industry bodies, consumers, and also we are touching to the society. I'll come in a moment how we are doing all this. Let me spend few minutes on this structure. This is what is actually giving you a full view of plastics circular economy, where the refiners are there, producers are there, converter, brand owner, end user, and finally, when the end user is throwing that packet in their dustbin, what's happening? There is waste collection, sorting. In earlier, it used to go mainly into energy recovery, but slowly responsible behaviors are coming up. Mechanical recycling is taking place. Chemical recycling has started. The technology may be in the infant stage, but a lot of efforts are being made. And also, how do we reduce the dependency on fossil fuel? That is also taking place. That's how you can see the renewable feedstock beds polymers are coming into picture. This probably represents more than 90% of the plastics economy, and this is how the loop can be completed if we all manage our responsibility in each of these stages. How we are doing it? What approach Buruj has taken? Buruj has taken first approach at the design stage. We are working with our converters, brand owners, original equipment manufacturers, so that we can help them, we can support them, we can do it together, the design of the packaging, which is more recycle friendly. Today, we have definite challenges in some of the areas. Let me go through some example. What is a packaging? A packaging has to perform When processing, it has to process perfectly. And finally, unless it is recyclable, the design is not complete. What we are doing, we are bringing polyolefin solutions which can advance this type of packaging design to a great extent. What is the conventional laminate? Particularly in case of flexible laminate, we see this type of different materials are going into the structure. Can we do something here? Yes, probably. What we can do is we can try to structure it with single family of polymers, that is only polyolefin, not only polyolefin, only polyethylene or only polypropylene. So if we make it only polyethylene, definitely this is going to be a recycling friendly structure, because in the once the purpose of packaging is done, when it is to be sorted and recycled, then there would be lesser problem. I am not saying there won't be problem, but there will be much lesser problem if we can do that. Some of these solutions are already commercial and available in the market. These are some of those examples. We have successfully collaborated with the value chain partners to bring solutions for edible oil, for rice bag, for detergent pouch, for frozen food, even for the toothpaste lamitube. And there is another area where Asian countries, including India, is not working now, is the tethered cap. See, today bottles are reaching the recyclers, but cap is not reaching the recyclers, because when as a consumer, we are using these caps, we are actually opening the caps. The caps is now separate from the bottle. But can the cap remain with the bottle? Yes, it is possible through proper designing. These regulations are already there in Europe. They have started implementing. I would request our regulators, our associations to look at this and start implementing such solutions. Material solutions are available. Only the design solutions are also available with the original equipment manufacturing part, but it needs to be implemented, and regulation can bring this more effectively. Now, coming to the next stage, how we are bringing mechanical recycling into the picture. Now, mechanical recycling, why it is required? Today, hardly 14% is being recycled. Hardly 14% is being recycled today out of the total packaging or polymers that is coming. Another 14% is getting into energy recovery, hopping 40% comes into landfill, and 32% is getting leakaged into the water bodies. All these are major concern unless we do the recycling. So all brand owners, they are taking a lot of pledges to tackle the issue. They are committing to incorporate recycling into their packaging structure. So use of recycle is going to improve the sustainability, and it will be closing the loop. This is how we can approach net zero. The plastic waste collection mechanisms are getting more and more technology, and it is getting more and more footprint across different geographies. And this is another area. Again, we need to create an ecosystem, not only I think everywhere, every city management, every government, every policymakers need to take a look in these areas to help the waste management companies, the investments that is coming, to make them more comfortable. Finally, if we this waste management company, if they're working well, then a stable flow of material will be available, and that can be recycled, that can be reintroduced into the plastic application system. What we are doing, Borouge is a virgin polymer manufacturing company with close to 5 million ton capacity, but we are not avoiding this journey. What we are doing, we are bringing the recycling into our portfolio through partnership approach with mechanical recycling companies across geographies. These are two examples where we have done some kind of collaboration with two companies, one in Singapore, one in China, whereby we will be bringing recycled material into our portfolio. The question could be, what about India? Yes, we have started working in India also. Maybe early next year, we'll see some result in collaboration effort in India. We will bring in all geographies wherever we are active. We have also already, as I told you, our innovation center is working with this recycling material. So we have already proven these are the packaging material where this kind of recycled material can be used commercially without any effect on the functionality. This is mechanical recycle. So this has to be used in non-food applications, and these kind of non-food applications are very much possible inclusive of recycle. We know we have regulation in India to incorporate more than 20% recycling, but we are not following properly. It can be done if we all work responsibly. The next area I'll concentrate on the renewable feedstock. Although it's done by one of our European partner, our partner company Borealis, but what they are doing, let us see. They are bringing polyolefins from renewable feedstock. And what is that renewable feedstock? Are we competing with the food? No, we are not competing with the food. This renewable feedstock is going to give us the same polymer, plastics, polyethylene and polypropylene, without giving any other problem. But the source of this renewable polymer is food waste. If you see here, there are 3 generations of feed possible from the biomass. Generation 1 is directly coming from corn, sugarcane, potato, rice. Generation 2, it is coming from oils and waste residue streams. The generation 1, if somebody depends on this, then it will compete with food. But generation 2, if it is not. It is actually using the wastages from the food processing industry and then giving it a second life in the converting into plastics. So this will reduce our dependency on the fossil fuel. And not only that, because these are plant-based effectively, this is going to reduce our carbon footprint to a great extent. Let me show you some result of this carbon footprint study. Sorry. Okay, carbon footprint study shows this can save 120% carbon dioxide emission. What does it mean? We all charge our smartphone. If I use 1 ton of this material, which can save charging 2700 smartphone for an entire year. So that is the kind of carbon footprint it can reduce if we don't use fossil fuel and we use this kind of biomass from the food waste industry. Now I'll focus on the last point, what we are doing. See, all these we are doing ourselves, but what about the community or the society? Can we touch them? How can we touch them? And how can we bring them into the chain so that they know what they are supposed to do? We have taken, sorry, there's some issues. Yeah. We have taken 2 approach. One is the education and second is trying to work with the community directly. In the first approach, what we name on like Polymer on the Move program, what we do is we go to the school, we target us age group of 10 to 14 years, and we try to create an awareness about them about the responsible usage of plastics. What it makes, they become plastic ambassador within their family, within their community. So at this young age, if we can do that, I know schools are doing, but additionally from industry, if we can do that, that will, tomorrow's generation will become more and more responsible when they're using plastics in packaging. We have already implemented this program in India. We have done last year in northern part of India. This year, we are doing it in eastern and southern part of India. We are touching the schools. The last part of the project stop, this is an initiative to touching the community in one of the 3 island cities in Indonesia, where we have taken the help from the government bodies, and then we have created an ecosystem. We are training the all these people for more effective management by creating some employment. More than 200 people are directly employed in this kind of project. A lot of other people have participated in this. So this is how through training on the with directly connecting to the communities, also we are trying to engage and creating the awareness. This is known as Project Stop. This was jointly launched by Borealis and Buruj 3 years back, and now it is expanding to the entire provinces. With this, I'll come to an end to my talk with few more points. Circular economy is here to stay. The entire circle has to get completed. Everybody needs to be working responsibly to create a net zero scenario. The packaging design will play a major role in future if we want to advance the circular economy. And finally, it has to be a closed loop solution that requires working throughout the value chain. With this, I'll end my talk. Thank you again, CIA and Ginkgo, for getting this platform together.
Well done, Pratyush. Well done. Very well done. What I wanted to say was that you have very nicely closed the loop by covering all the three important elements of framework that you touched upon: technological, economic, as also societal transition, which is required for removing the bad name of the plastic, the way it is carrying so far, right? Very well done. I think we'll come to the questions and you will answer them at the end of the program, because let the audience make a note of what they have, and so that we can come in there. Okay. Thank you very much once again. We go to the next presentation, and that is by Mr. Ajit Radhakrishnan. He's a senior specialist at the World Bank's Global Water Practice. Ajit is the country lead for 2030 Water Resources Group in India. He has extensive knowledge and experience of sustainable development issues, working in partnership with national and international actors to create opportunities and solutions in complex organization settings, such as intergovernmental, international, non-governmental entities. Ajit holds a graduate degree in public administration from Columbia University, New York. Mr. Radhakrishnan, floor is yours. All the very best. 20 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Ganapathy, and thank you, Pratyush, for that excellent opening remarks. I think I would just pick off from where Pratyush left, and I don't have a slide presentation. I just wanted to have this as a free-flowing conversation. And since you're all industry leaders, I think there's much to learn as well from your side to understand what can actually be done more in our efforts to achieve net zero, both in terms of water positivity and also in terms of the carbon neutrality that we're talking about. So thanks for having me here, and also a great initiative to begin with. That is, there needs to be more of such conversations happening in the public domain. And thank you for organizing and convening this. So as Pratyush mentioned, I think net zero is going to be, or the circular economy is going to stay here. It's no longer a kind of euphemism. It's no longer kind of a definition of a theoretical definition or a construct. It is something that we see in action. It is something that the industries and the businesses in this country have been putting into action for a long time, but have been under the banner of sustainability or resource use efficiency. The circularity loop is closed when you actually have the business value proposition supporting the resource use efficiency at a larger level. But beyond that, it's also about a question about understanding that business value proposition for most of the industries. So I would think that one of the key criteria that we can actually look at as partners across the board, both multilateral organizations, governments, and the private sector together, is to understand and promote that value proposition that industries or the businesses need to absorb into their business processes, and also into the day-to-day engagement with the multiple partners, including the clients and also the consumers that most of us will have at the end of the day. So that, I think, would be the key proposition that I would like to drive in this conversation. Having said that, Mr. Ganapathy mentioned that I am also the country coordinator for the 2030 Water Resources Group. Now, this is an interesting platform that I would just like to introduce. So 2030 Water Resource Group has got its origins in the World Economic Forum. Back in 2008, when there was a seminal report published by World Economic Forum that was looking at charting the water futures for the world. And that looked at the demand and supply side of water and tried to understand what would be the demand gap or the supply side gaps that would exist in the future, taking a projection along with the understanding of the various risks that both industries and also the governments and the communities at large face. So consequent to that, there was this understanding and appreciation that it's not a single stakeholders ownership, or it's not a single stakeholder's responsibility to achieve water security for the entire sector. It's a collective action, it's a collective responsibility that would cut across multiple sectors, multiple partners. So hence the idea of multi-stakeholder partnership, MSP partnership as we would call it in short, came into existence, and a global multi-stakeholder partnership was set up by World Economic Forum back then. Soon after the initiation of that multi-stakeholder partnership, which still has the membership and representation of some of the largest corporates, including Nestle, PepsiCo, Coke, AB InBev, and others. This partnership sprung into action by also working with the International Finance Corporation. So the 2030 Water Resource Group as an organization then became housed within the IFC, the International Finance Corporation, from 2008 until 2018. Now, in 2018, in partnership with the Harvard Kennedy School, there was a study that looked at the impacts of the Water Resources Group, and then recommended that World Bank would be a better partner as we go in the next phase of engagement with the stakeholders, because there are policy issues to be addressed. There are also governments to be partnered with, and some of these partnerships are led by government. So there's a need for more of engagement from the public space. So in 2018, WRG 2030, which is a trust fund within the World Bank now, became housed within the World Bank. And this is the trust fund that works with the private sector and brings together the government and the civil society under one platform, across the table, sitting together and trying to work on water security related issues. So the 2030 WRG, the 2030 Water Resource Group, tries to create these multi-stakeholder partnerships across countries, and also in India specifically, this is at the subnational level. So in India, all these multi-stakeholder partnerships, the MSP platforms that we have created, have got strong jurisdictions and also have got clear mandates from the government. So these are all supported by strong government orders, which mandates the purpose and also the objectives of the MSP platforms. In all these platforms, there is an obvious interest and also a focus on targeting water use efficiency, which is across agriculture water use efficiency, industrial water use efficiency, and then also looking at urban water issues, which include circular economy. Now, in all these MSP platforms, the chairs are the chief secretaries of the state. You have the principal secretaries of the line department. So the idea here is to break the silos, be it the government or the public sector, or be it the case of working with the private sector and the public sector. So there's also a need to kind of create the barrier, remove the barriers, dismantle the barriers, and create the kind of enabling ecosystem for the government and the private sector to work together, create the bridge for the government and the private sector to work together. And also bring the civil society, which includes some of the leading academic institutions like IITs, IIMs, and also some of the global institutions that are interested in research issues in India in these areas of water management. So that was the whole philosophy of doing this. Now, we have these strong MSP platforms operational in the 4 states of Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. We also have new projects that are being implemented in Tamil Nadu and Gujarat, along with the governments. So I would request you to have a separate conversation if you're interested to look at some of these opportunities, because there's a strong partnership that we are forging with the private sector through the bank, through the World Bank, and the government in all these states. We have close to 300 partners right now in India that's looking at different industrial businesses and also industry associations in India, and working together with them to address some of these water security issues. Now, the question of circular economy is central to this whole issue of multi-stakeholder action, because circular economy is one of those key leadership areas that the trust fund is engaging with in the case of different governments and also at the subnational level. So it's not just about technology that we are talking about here. We are talking about a whole gamut of actions, which includes supporting the governments in creating the right policy ecosystems. So we have, in fact, drafted the first wastewater reuse policy for the government of Karnataka. We supported the government also to create what we call as a wastewater reuse cell which includes supporting the government, building the capacities of city-level administrations to design and implement projects that enhance wastewater reuse in the industrial sector. So as a result, working with some of the consulting firms, we have identified 4 cities within Karnataka out of a short list of 20 for investments from the government and also from the private sector and from the international multilaterals to enhance wastewater reuse in the industrial sector. So Bellary is the front runner in Karnataka, and the discussions are on in terms of investment prioritization for Bellary as a city for wastewater reuse. And there are other cities as well in Karnataka that are there. Now, working with the International Finance Corporation, there again is an effort that is looking at shortlisting 20 cities across India for investment prioritization on wastewater reuse and circular economy on water specifically, targeting industries and the urban wastewater reuse. As everyone knows, almost 90% or in India it varies depending on the level of industrialization and also the efforts of the government in terms of attracting investment in the sector. But 90% are on average in most of the developing countries, you have untreated water getting discharged into the rivers or waterfalls. So here there is a market, and there are some innovations that are being promoted by some of the state governments. One of the key innovations that we are working with the World Economic Forum and also with the private sector is to champion the idea of a wastewater trading exchange. Just as you have a carbon trading exchange, there is also a possibility of setting up wastewater trading exchanges. Why? Because in most cases, in most subnational cases, state governments, they do have regulations that mandate a certain level of wastewater reuse, or for that matter, treatment would need to be 100% in accordance with the laws of the land. But there's also a mandate in some states, say for example, in the case of Maharashtra, for 30% or upwards for wastewater reuse in the industrial units. Now, this creates an opportunity for market to operate because there are differential capacities between the industries or within the industry that can actually be used for trading the wastewater credits. If you treat it to a certain level, be it primary or secondary or tertiary, the credits would then be allocated based on the quality of water and the quantity of treatment that you have made, and that could be traded between the industries in a certain cluster, for which the government will be providing the infrastructure for conveyance, and the government also will be playing the role of a regulator. So in certain states, we do have water regulators, and the water regulators are very interested in taking up the role of a regulator for wastewater trading exchanges. So this has been a process in the making. We have been engaging with the private sector in Maharashtra, also with some of the large industrial units in Maharashtra, working alongside with the government. So there is a wastewater reuse certificate handbook that we have developed. We are happy to share that with the interested participants. And there is also an ongoing conversation with the government, which is now at the final stages of implementation in the industrial sector for wastewater trading and circular usage of water. Now, the last point I would just like to share with you is that together with the German government, the World Bank and the 2030 Water Resources Group is also now implementing a project for improving the wastewater reuse in the textile sector. So there is an investment that is specifically looking at improving the water use efficiencies of textile clusters across the 4 states, which is Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, and Maharashtra, and to work with these industrial units in the states to create the right incentives by working with the government, providing them the infrastructure as required at the cluster level, and to enhance the water use efficiencies at the industrial level, and also the wastewater reuse within those industrial clusters. That's the whole purpose of the program. In this process, we are also planning to implement what the World Economic Forum has developed as a very innovative tool. I would request you all to take a look at it. This is called the Scale 360, which looks at how an ecosystem can be built around circular economy, right from stakeholder engagement, right from identification of your objectives and outcomes, to the process of monitoring and achieving those outcomes. You have a whole process laid out. So you don't need to spend resources. You don't need to spend time on designing a process. There's already a process template that World Economic Forum has developed in the form of Scale 360, which is very useful and helpful when it comes to circular economy cases, be it water or be it any resource that is consumed in the business development, in the business process, the industrial processes. So that would be an excellent tool to begin with. And in some cases, as industry leaders, we are speaking or we are preaching to the converts. So we don't need to educate the industries or businesses around the need for circular economy or the reuse of resources, because there is an inherent business case built in there. But for some of the other stakeholders who need to be part of this picture, which for example, includes the government and the civil society, there is a need for demystification of this concept, which needs operationalizing, also sharing the good practices that you have at the industrial level with the other stakeholders. So, for example, in the case of Karnataka, we have been working with the government of Karnataka on industrial water use efficiency, and there's a specific work stream which is led by the Commissioner of Industries in Karnataka that has been championed by the industries in Karnataka, that showcases the good practices in reducing the water usage and also reuse of water within the industrial clusters. Now, the civil society in the state wasn't very aware of the processes and also the good practices from the industrial side, because it's always the civil society's good practices that get publicized and gets shared much more frequently. It's not a fault or it's not a flaw in the system, but it's the way of communication that actually has got a visibility there. But in this specific case, the government of Karnataka also highlighted the innovations that have come from the industrial side in terms of wastewater reuse, and that is now being promoted in clusters that are being set up. So the pharma cluster, so the automotive cluster, these are all now looking at the good practices from the industrial units that have wastewater reuse as the centerpiece. For the first time in this history of the state, the industrial policy of the state now talks about the centrality of wastewater reuse as a part of the industrial production. So this is a very good change from the government in terms of appreciation of wastewater reuse as a source of resource for the industries that are being established in various clusters. It also reduces various environmental costs, including cost of abstraction of fresh water, which has got competing purposes now, with drinking water assuming much more significance through Jal Jeevan Mission. Agriculture obviously consumes more than 80% of the water in this country, so there is also a competing need from agriculture sector. So there are these kind of innovations that are promoted. But I think one area that I would urge the audience and also the participants in this seminar and the workshop is to also focus on sharing of these innovations and probably working with the government and their stakeholders, including the multilateral institutions, to come up with innovative financing ideas. So innovative financing is a need because some of the existing public financing may not be sufficient when it comes to meeting the requirements of the clusters and also the specific clusters and the specific needs that you may have at the cluster level for certain industries. So there is a space for innovating around financing, which may be hybrid annuity financing or things like that, which can actually help in creating more of infrastructure at the cluster level or at the industrial unit level. One classic example that you have is the case of the Mathura refinery, where the World Bank and IFC helped create a hybrid annuity model for investments by private sector, which has helped institute and set up infrastructure for wastewater treatment. Similarly, less cost effective or less cost intensive or less costly infrastructure is now also attracting the attention of the end users, including industries. You could look at the case of Saharanpur, where there's a paper mill cluster, and the cluster has now instituted or set up what you call as decentralized water treatment. It's not for the cluster, but the government has set it up in certain specific drains that leads to the Hindan River, where the decentralized water treatment systems are much more cost effective and can be easily managed in terms of technological requirements or management capacities. And these infrastructure are creating the right incentives and the cost system for industries to take up wastewater reuse as part of their businesses. So these are some of those examples and experiences that we can share. Now, one last thing to share with you is also the possibility around looking at how industries can support agriculture. Now, in certain cases, agriculture, water use efficiency in agriculture is a big problem. We perhaps have one of the lowest water use efficiencies if you look at comparable countries. So China uses 1/3 of the water that we use for producing a kilogram of rice, which is which is a telling story for us. The agriculture water use efficiency need to be drastically improved. Now, there are different conversations happening in that direction. But one of the key areas where there could be an interface between the industry and agriculture is also about the prospects of sharing the treated water that you have, maybe the secondary treated water. If you're not operating an ZLD facility, a zero liquid discharge facility, there is a possibility of exchanging or sharing the treated water with the farmers or the agriculture sector, and that can be done through institutional platforms. And the farmers are willing to pay for that water that they are able to generate or get from industrial units. A classic case that we could look at here is the case of Aurangabad, where the industrial units or the sewage treatment plant in Aurangabad discharges the water, the treated water, into the drain, which is of no use for the farmer. The farmers then have to pump the treated water plus the waste from the drain for the irrigation, which creates further health hazards. So I think there are multiple benefits that we could look, including emissions reduction, health benefits, and also water security in this case, and livelihood security consequently, that we can all achieve. So there are opportunities for outcome-based financing, impact investing, and as I mentioned before, innovations in the case of finance. I would pause there. I think I can come back when there are questions, and there's, I think, enough and more space for us to work together. We'll be happy to work with the private sector clients, CII, the champion for industries, and to set up and to support your initiatives at the state level by working with the government, dialoguing with the government in terms of policies, creating enabling policies. And we should work more often to create that policy ecosystem that is required for you to drive the economic growth in this country. And thanks for having me here.
Thanks, Ajit. Very well done. Not only the complex organizational setting, but also the crop patterns, the way you touched upon these two states, particularly Karnataka and Maharashtra. I think excellent coverage in sense of technological, economic, and societal transition, what you mentioned about. I think best practices and particularly the knowledge sharing must take place for it to be expedited. Very well brought out. I think we'll wait for the audience for them to pose the questions so that we can answer that, and we'll go ahead. Thank you so much for your presentation. We have now Dr. Arab Oballa. He is again a person other than multicultural complex organization settings. He is now presenting a multicultural environment in which he has been educated. Lebanon, Senegal, France, and Colombia. Dr. Oballa holds an MSc in Economic Tools and Prospective Analysis, MSc in Law and International Relations, and a PhD in Economic Development. He has more than 3 decades experience in strategies and policy analysis related to sustainable development, resource efficiency, and circular economy. After 25 years of extensive stint in UNEP, Dr. Arab is currently working in the role of Executive Director of SEED. His major role involves promoting and providing adequately tailored support, innovative, equal, inclusive entrepreneurship in support to green and circular economy, responsible production and consumption, and green recovery. Dr. Oballa, welcome to this presentation. Kindly go ahead with your speech on eco-inclusive entrepreneurship to fasten net zero transition. Over to you, sir. 20 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Let me just make sure that I have my PowerPoint on the screen. That's perfect. You have it there. Okay. Before starting, I will thank you for inviting us to share our experience, knowledge with you and with the participants. First of all, I would probably be repeating a lot of what has been said previously by the 2 speakers, but from a different perspective. And this is based on the following. I have been working on sustainability in general for more than 30 years. I have seen that we tend to adapt to existing system without revising the existing system. And that's why we're moving from sustainability to green growth, to green economy, to circular economy, most of the time just adding a layer and a layer without having a deep reconsideration of the system on which we are working and giving the role to the ones that are too many to be considered properly, but essential for any economy in the world, which are the micro, small, and medium enterprises. And India knows about this more than any other one, on how to work with them and how to support them. So, okay. Let me, couple of general comments. Rethinking is essential. I can tell you it's not done properly, not enough indeed, not in order to really act towards efficiency and resilience. Better understanding the production processes completely through life cycle and connecting it with consumer behavior and the increasing demand. So the business and the industry, as the previous speakers were telling it, they know about it, but we're talking about the big industries. When you go to the small and medium industries, which they can do very well, when they're linked to the system, they have a problem doing it, matter of cost and knowledge. Decoupling business growth from use of resources and environmental impact, we have been talking about it for the last 10, 15 years when I established the International Resource Panel in UNEP, which was based on decoupling. We understand very well the theory, the mechanism. It's simply sometimes extremely difficult to implement because we don't have the right policy framework and market instrument for that. And most of the time when we want to make a change, we start with the most complex ones, the big ones, and then we are stuck. Most of government do this, the industry does that. It's like a shame to start with the very small things in order to move to the next one. And that's exactly what we should do. Look at the small issues where we can make a difference in order to create trust and move to next action. And not complicate life in the beginning with the most ambitious ones that require much more investment and so on. And innovation, on the contrary, that what many companies or government believe, innovation is not just what the big companies do. Any small company, bottom of the smallest one, can do innovation, and probably the best innovation to be replicated. So properly understanding the system in which you are working and all its interaction is absolutely essential. But I know that this is difficult, it takes time. People don't want to spend much time of it, and then they move to the next step by keeping, okay, I do my part and I will leave the others looking at it. And the most concerned stakeholders in sustainability, circularity, are the small and medium enterprises. And that's exactly what UNEP, UNDP, and IUCN intended or aimed to doing when they launched SEED, Entrepreneurship for Sustainable Development, at Johannesburg, because we had the government discussing, we had the big industries, but the small and medium enterprises, of course, were absent. And as I said, there are too many numerous to be considered, but still they are essential for all any economy. At the same time, what we tend to not give enough attention, and we are doing it until today when we talk about climate change and climate mitigation, is how can we factor in the transition period? We can, before going from point A to point B, depending on the company, depending on the context, depending on the resources you have, your transition period can be shorter or longer. And it has to be factored in before saying, okay, we want to make our country or our company climate neutral in 10 years or in 50 years, and look at different steps that we have to. So going toward net zero waste requires really deep rethinking on the processes, the willingness, and then make sure that we have the proper action there. So, of course, you know this better than me, but let me give you some, just summarize some elements that are of interest for us for India. India, like any other country, have suffered from the pandemic on which we went through, and we're still going through it. But it exacerbated the challenges that we have been facing, but at the same time, and in certain occasions, we have seen the opportunities to do things better. Some people call it build back better. I will call it build forward better, not build back, but build forward better. In terms of food security, livelihood, employment, and the small entrepreneurs, which has been most impacted, most of the time are not the ones we care most about when we come to stimulus packages and so on. And India has had important stimulus packages, but compared to the scale of the economy, you will see the next slide, they are not that important, and they require more effort for rural job creation, for the support of green stimulus, which is still very important, a good step, but we need much more to have a proper impact for that. So India, by its population, by geographic situation, really will lose a lot from climate change, climate mitigation, the impact it has, the increasing unsustainable lifestyle of the middle class that is increasing, that is asking for more food, more services, and so on, while neglecting the bottom of the pyramid, which are the basis of the economy. So there is a need for a high sense of responsibility when we talk about zero waste. This is a simple diagram that you might have seen on how the major economy have been reacting towards the pandemic and the stimulus, fiscal stimulus. You see India very much less than the others, and I hope they will be able to do much more than that. And even if you look at the green stimulus spending, it's an important one, but important on its own, but compared to the needs, remain very small to be able to make the needed impact to get to the transformative change toward zero waste and reducing the emission. Now, in the package that India has done for green recovery, the sector that have been identified are mostly driven by the micro, small, and medium enterprises in India. And let me just highlight a few of them. You have the renewable energy, the mini solar park, the energy efficient appliances, the organic farming, agroforestry, nature-based tourism, clean technology. These are mostly done by the small and medium enterprises in India that require the right attention. But as I said in the beginning, there are too many to be considered, and we tend to concentrate on the large ones, which can have an impact, but not the large impact that we need. So what is the policy landscape for that in India? As I said, you know this better than me, so I'll be just highlighting some of the points. So the SMEs are the second largest employer after the agriculture sector, 30% of the total GDP. But what is interesting here is to see the number of the unregistered micro, small, and medium enterprises, which means that most of them work in the informal economy, which usually difficult to reach, difficult to include them in program, difficult to consider them in the policy framework that has been established. And that's why the trickle-down effect from the government have limits when it goes down to these micro and small enterprises, because the majority of them are not registered and work mostly on the informal economy. Still, they are essential for stabilizing the economy. They are essential to reducing and mitigating the shocks that you receive from outside or from inside. So we need more attention to the small and medium enterprises, and that's what we're trying to do. There are a certain number of principles that on transitioning to circular economy, and it has been highlighted by the previous two speakers, you have to be looking carefully at the design at any step of the process. There is design that can really look at the long term, that is regenerative. You have to look at alternatives to addressing issues of the finite resources, the waste generation. We have heard about a few examples before, and try to see as much as possible, keep the resources, and in the city we call it urban mining, rework it again, consider recovery, reuse, recycle spent materials. It is being done much more by the big companies, a lot also by small and medium companies, but not with the necessary multiplier effect and of scaling that we could expect, that it reach out to the other. India has had interesting projects that are in line with this implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, or the Paris Agreement that will be meeting next month in Glasgow. The Made in India, Skills of India, the Scheme of Fund for Regeneration of Traditional Industries are all very good examples, leading by example for other countries in the world. But the issue is, how far can these have really an impact on the majority of the small and medium enterprises that are not registered, that is difficult to reach out, and so on. The policies that India has been putting there to foster circular economy in the medium, the micro, small, and medium enterprises have shown a lot of opportunities. But still, at the scale of India, it might need to look at the factor for replication, for scaling up, for multiplying. The Startup India is a very good program. We're really providing support to these entrepreneurs who have good ideas to move on. The micro and small enterprise cluster development, I know some of them are supported by the World Bank and other UN agencies, but also well done by the Indian government and the industry there. The production link incentives in order to push those enterprises to move further on that. The waste management tools that would induce the small and medium enterprises and small startups to look at opportunities for effective waste management. So opportunities are there. What we need to see is how to move on the conditions. And there comes what has been highlighted just by the previous speaker. What are the barriers and the challenges that we have? So we know a lot. We have a lot of innovation, or we almost, I would say, we have all the solution at hand, but then how to implement them? Access to finance. Access to finance is a major issue for the micro and small medium enterprises. The transaction costs are too high for them. They don't necessarily have access to the information. Most of the time, they don't have a bank account to be able to see how to work on it, and the administrative and procedural complexity. When you go to access to technology, sometimes it has high cost so that they can improve their technology. They lack the right knowledge and awareness about those technologies that could be of use for them, that can help them to improve the work. They are not properly integrated. I will not call it larger firm, but in the value chain that give value to what they are doing, and lack of technical expertise to improve efficiency and so on. You go to the access to the infrastructure, which would be the modern new IT infrastructure, or the infrastructures that are industrial park, where you have common facilities that can be used for the industry sitting there. Those millions of small and medium enterprises are not necessarily in the system so that we can have a proper impact on that, and they don't have the supporting tool, limited access to capital, and so on. The same for the market. They don't have properly the knowledge how to go there, not the facility to transport the product they have, or quality certification. I mean, this is something that could boost their work, but you have to see how to induce them, to enable them, to work with them, and give them proper infrastructure from the market, the government, and the technology that can support them. Look at the skill development. I mean, moving to a next step, going to circular economy, improving waste management, requires a certain number of skills that might help them a lot in moving ahead, but how to reach out to them and how to make sure that we can provide them this additional skill so that we can make them more efficient, use better their resources, and become more competitive, and use the saved money for additional innovation. The regulatory framework in general, even if we have fantastic policies almost in every country, when you look down on how to consider the small and medium enterprises, how these are really supported, enabled to do their work. The big industries have clear access to that. They know how to handle that. But the regulation that you have there do not go down to the small and medium enterprises, or they don't understand them, or they don't know how to use them. And they see them always, most of the time, as a constraint. And the compliance costs are too high for them. So considering the number of small and medium enterprises, the proportion and how essential they are for the economy in India, it's essential, India and any other country in Africa and Asia, it's essential to give better consideration to the micro and small and medium enterprises, not just by text in a policy, but practically what does it mean to help them, to enable them, to provide them framework. So SEED is doing part of it. We are one initiative, others are doing it, but we're trying to see how we can, by working with the small and medium enterprises, improve their access to the market, understanding together with them what are the specific issues and the challenges. How can we improve the design on that? let them understand better in which system they are, what is downstream, upstream, how they can be interrelated to them, and as much as possible, improve their capacity, their skill development, while supporting the policy framework in the country, trying to see how to make sure that they effectively integrate the needs of those micro and small and medium enterprises. So there are various models, and part of it has been said by my colleagues before, on integrating circularity. Yes, circularity is here to stay, and circularity, in fact, have been here. When you look on the responsible enterprises, they had been implementing circularity, simply we did not call it like that. Avoiding pollution, looking at resource efficient, cleaner production, product design. Some of them has been upfront, leading by example, before we even call it circular economy. Or downstream, when you go to waste reduction and product life extension, recycling. But what we need here is to make sure that this is properly scaled up. Otherwise, we just keep on having pilot projects, demonstration projects, some limited number of them. And we see after 20 years, that has been the case for green growth, green economy, circular economy, we don't see a major transformative impact on the economy. We keep almost business as usual. So there are two ways of doing it: integration of circular economy in existing operation and business. And as I said, our aim is micro, small, and medium enterprises. The big companies have the resources, they're probably doing it. But what we want to see is how those micro, small, medium enterprises can be induced and provided right assistance to that. On the product design, showing them that this is not just for the big companies. You can do something at your level that can improve it. You can use the material that we have, don't throw them away. Let us see how we work with that and have a proper understanding of the auditing, the implementation of the technology, have the right knowledge and the right metrics for that, so they can be part of the market. But you have also the new business model to for new industries by using the recycled material and product, the offer of new product and services, and you have multiple startups that coming up, and we have fantastic cases throughout Asia and in India in particular, remanufacturing, waste management, and awareness raising. And there the civil society, as it has been said, has a fantastic role there, but they need to have the right support for that. Just give you two examples, and I have two slides and I'll finish there. Two examples of companies, medium, small companies in India, and we have many more than that, and many in Asia. If you go to the website of Seed, www.seed.uno, UNO, as if you said UN, you will find various examples around the world that can be useful. Here, two examples related to building and construction. Earth Tattva, which has been a seed starter enterprise in 2020, we helped them from the beginning to see how they better organize their work and so on. And they offer recycled product from ceramic tableware, which are much stronger than the previous one. They reduce mining of natural resources and so on. And they even entered in big hotels, organic food cafes and so on. And just by assisting them, coaching them in moving to the other level. And there are hundreds of them that can do exactly the same. The Equally Recycle X, which is a startup formed in 2020, not far ago. It has been a winner or a run-up of our 2021 Seed Award. They collect and recycle all type and grades of plastic waste, industrial building, construction material, eco-friendly. They come up with eco-friendly and cheap product and building material, and they are really doing fantastic work there. And they need to be known. We need to find opportunities to scale up their work, to expand it, get other enterprises share and learning from their process, not just copying them, but learning from their process to move on. So just to conclude here, what we need, and I've seen it really missing all in most of the discussion that come around sustainability, is the common sense. The common sense action that consider society, environment, and economy towards zero waste. making sure that when we work with small and medium enterprises and with civil society, that resource efficiency makes good economic sense. The big companies understand it. But the big companies, in terms of number, in terms of employment, represent, depending on the countries, 10, 15, 20, maybe 30%. The rest are the small and medium enterprises that have to understand that if there is a starting point, a constraint, at the end, it's benefit. It's a good economic benefit. Sustainable consumption and production enables circular economy. Otherwise, you cannot do it. If you don't look properly at the consumption process and the production processes, you cannot implement circular economy. It builds resilience and it drives a green recovery. The small and medium enterprises have to be properly considered as a driver of the economy. And that's what we are trying to do to see how to induce countries. If you check around you in the world, you have very few countries that have explicit ministries, government entities that care specifically about micro and small and medium enterprises. They are a part here and there, but not fully considered as such. However, in waste or plastic in particular, it's important because I have seen so many things on the single-use plastic ban, the other initiative on plastic. We need to be, more careful here. We have to distinguish between what is good, what is bad, and what is ugly. In any waste, including plastic, you have good plastic that is absolutely necessary for the economy. We cannot throw it away. We just have to see how to keep it and enhance it. We have the bad one. We know which are the bad ones that go to the sea and so on. We have to see how just to stop it and stop them from the beginning. And we have the ugly one that by remanufacturing, reconsidering, we can make them better and reintroduce them in the economy. And this applies to all kinds of waste, particularly to the plastic one, which are now, I would say, the fashion around the world. And we don't have properly the policy framework and the instrument to support those small and medium enterprises and even the overall economy when it comes to waste. So informing, educating, inducing, you know it all well, but most important of all for me is communicating. We are not communicating enough. We are not communicating to the right target people for them to access to this knowledge, to see how they can get it, how they can use it in order to improve their activity. And we are aiming, like others, to share our knowledge, experience with others so as to improve the overall condition in India and elsewhere. Thank you very much.
Lovely, lovely. Dr. Arab, thank you so much. You commenced with more with less and efficiency through life cycle and value chain as the basis for your presentation. You brought out very beautifully the role of innovation, as talked by Ajit also, to speed up the net zero transition. Then you talked about trust and confidence in the actions. I think that was a very, very important point that you made out. Then you talked about integration to cover both upstream and downstream. I think that was a very vital point. Good lesson to be taken from all of us, for all of us. And lastly, what you finished off, polished off, was induce actions. I think that was excellent. Because I think without action, nothing is going to take place. Everything will remain on paper. Thank you so much. I think we'll wait for the questions from the audience. Just hold on for another one presentation. And the next presentation goes to, is being made by Mr. N. Muthusijan. He's our anchor as far as CII-GBC is concerned. He's energy and environmental sustainability expert at the CII-GBC. He's the principal counselor involved in promoting the mission on sustainable growth and green co-rating system of CII. He has work experience spanning over 22 years. He's a Chevening Fellow from the University of Birmingham on economic of energy. He's also a certified energy auditor of BE. Yes, Muthu, over to you for experience of CII-GBC on net zero water and waste.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to all. I'm very happy to present how voluntary rating, green company rating program of CII can help companies to achieve net zero, and how Greenco can enable the net zero movement in the country. Mr. Ganapati, who is also the chairman of this session, he's our chairman of Greenco Assessment Panel and also the technical committee. So the last about 9 years, we have been promoting this environmental sustainability rating called Green Company Rating in Indian industry, covering all kind of sectors, right from MSME to large and multinational companies. So the ultimate objective of the Green Coca rating program is to help companies to facilitate a world-class status in terms of their environmental performance. So when I say world-class performance, in all aspects of the resource consumption, the environmental performance improvement, how a facility of a manufacturing company or even a service industry for their operations can improve their overall efficiency and then also achieve a highest level in terms of their performance. So that is what the green company rating is helping and facilitating, right from world class in terms of energy efficiency, then achieving a water positive status, carbon neutral company, and also achieving zero waste to landfill and zero liquid discharge for their operations. Then even considering the all aspects of improving the yield and reducing the raw material, packaging material, consumables, all aspects are part of the green company rating program. And it is not only within the operation of the company, it is also the entire supply chain, both upstream and downstream. When I say upstream, it's all related to the suppliers and vendors. How a company can influence their suppliers and improve their environmental performance in their value chain is again another important aspect being promoted through green company rating. Then in the downstream, the product stewardship initiatives in terms of the end of life management of the product, or influencing the consumers in terms of ensuring the health, safety, and environmental aspects during the usage phase, or a better design ultimately which result into improved resource efficiency and reduced environmental impact. And of course, the last one is the green infrastructure, like how a company can have all their infrastructure as a green building, then maintaining the flora and fauna. All these aspects are covered as part of the green company rating program. So this is the framework right now, which is being promoted by CAA, and we have more than 750 companies representing different sectors are working on this rating program. So as I mentioned in my previous slide, all resources are included as part of the rating, and similarly beyond the fence in terms of suppliers and the entire life cycle approach being followed in terms of understanding their performance and also improving their overall performance. And based on the performance of the company, this green company rating is applicable for a company which is just starting the environmental improvement programs or resource efficiency programs. So then they will go into the first level of certified level or bronze level. Or if company is matured and then they are already in certain level, definitely, I mean, they can go up in the ladder in terms of their overall performance, like silver, gold, and platinum. And if a company is platinum level and it is maintaining its performance for more than 3 years, then recently in 2019, the Green Company Rating Committee also introduced another level of green company called Platinum Plus rating. And as part of the Platinum Plus rating, the requirement of the companies are still higher. The objective is to maintain how the company can maintain their world-class status and also further improve their performance year on year. And when they have certain minimum requirement and also they reach certain performance requirements, then they'll be given a Platinum Plus rating. So 2019, we introduced this Platinum Plus rating. In fact, the net zero approach are included as minimum requirement. For example, when a company is going for Platinum Plus, they need to have the mandatory requirements like scoring more than 850 points out of 1,000 points under the Greenco version 3. Then they should also have a good management system for Greenco implementation within the plan, so that each and every aspect of Greenco is monitored, implemented, and ensured that the performance is sustained. So that's the focus of the first mandatory requirement. Apart from that, as a company, how they are prepared for future in terms of addressing all their legal requirements, environmental performance, and even as a company, how they are analyzing their own challenges and risks with respect to natural resource availability or raw material availability and climate change impact. It may be both with respect to mitigation or adaptation. So all aspects ought to be part of the mandatory requirement for a company to be called as a Platinum Plus. Then there are about 8 performance requirements. You'll find the requirements 6, 7, 8 are all about the net zero approach. So how your company can achieve water neutrality, carbon neutrality, and zero waste landfill. And out of these 8 performance requirements, if a company is able to maintain or achieve 6 of these performance requirements and also the mandatory requirement and scoring about 850 points, then they will be called as a Platinum Plus company. So very happy to say that Godrej Appliances, Shirwal and Mohali units, and ITC Bhadrachalam PSPD unit, these 3 units are already Greenco Platinum Plus plants, and many of the Platinum companies are also working on achieving the Platinum Plus rating in the subsequent, in future. So overall, what I'm trying to say here is how a Greenco can be an enabler to net zero movement. So that's the focus of my presentation. So with respect to carbon neutral, water positive, zero waste landfill, in all aspects, the Greenco framework is helping the company to first understand, then improve their system, set target, and over a period of time, it is helping them to achieve all these net zero statuses. So with respect to carbon, of course, the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, all 3 aspects are included as part of the inventarization. And as a company, they need to offset and achieve the overall carbon neutral status. Then they will be eligible to say that they're a carbon neutral company. Similarly, water positive. So with respect to overall consumption of water on an annual basis, how their initiatives both within the fence and beyond the fence is helping to augment more water than their consumption. So then they will be called as a water positive company. Similarly, if they ensure that their solid waste, both hazardous and non-hazardous waste, is completely diverted from the landfill, and it is either reused or recycled, or the first approach in terms of waste management hierarchy is to even avoid or reduce. So all these things are analyzed, and then if they're able to achieve this status, then they will be called as a zero waste landfill company. So in each and every area, I think it's also very important to first have the commitment from the top management, a better monitoring and monitoring system, and having a system to set target and achieve the target and ensure that the target, the action plan is achieved, and also they're able to sustain their performance, and they should be able to reduce their specific resource consumption year on year, apart from achieving the ultimate status of zero waste landfill or water positive or carbon neutral. So as part of the Greenco rating guidelines, the technical committee has already come out with the framework for the zero waste landfill guidelines and also for the water neutrality guidelines. So both I am going to quickly share what are the overall approach being adopted for a facility or a unit to achieve zero waste landfill certification. So the broad guidelines include certain mandatory aspects. For example, any company which is going for the certification, it's not only part of the Greenco requirement. The company which is not part of Greenco, if they are interested only on the certification, they can also go for this CA Greenco landfill, zero waste landfill certification. But the first requirement is like they should fulfill all legal requirements, and then there should be a commitment in terms of the policy, targets, and reduction. So there should be a the past performance, if you see, at least some 3 years of performance should show that there is a continuous reduction in terms of their specific waste generation or waste which is diverted from the landfill. So these are certain mandatory requirements. Beyond mandatory requirements, they should also ensure that their tier 1 suppliers, tier 1 recyclers are also audited. They should have a system to audit their recyclers. For example, if a company is generating certain waste and this waste is sent to a recycler, and then there should be a systematic or a good protocol for the company to ensure that this recycler is good enough to do recycling. So they should have their own way of auditing the recyclers, so that they should ensure that the recycler is also meeting the requirement. And similarly, if certain operation of the plant is outsourced, for example, somebody is just outsourcing the paint shop or powder coating or some other processes as an outsourced activity, then those outsourced activity also should be part of the overall certification system, even though it is not within their own operations. So these are all based on the expert committee. And finally, whichever is in green are accepted practices of diverting waste from landfill. So that includes the reduction in waste, reusing, recycling, upcycling of the waste, composting, anaerobic digestion, and the difficult waste which is non-recyclable, which is sent to co-processing in a cement plant, and waste to energy. These are all accepted practices which is diverted from the landfill. But there are certain non-acceptable practices, like if a composting waste or recyclable waste is composed or a recyclable waste is co-processed or recyclable waste is sent for waste to energy. That's not acceptable practice. So all these things are analyzed, and based on this, if a plant or a facility is able to maintain more than 95% to 97% of waste diversion is ensured, then they are the first level of the net zero waste company, which is called aspiring zero waste landfill company. The next level is between 97.5 to 99.7, then approaching zero waste landfill certification level. Then if somebody is able to maintain more than 99.7% of the waste which is avoided from landfill, and only 0.3% they're sending it, then they will be called as a zero waste landfill. Of course, there are certain difficult waste still it is not possible to avoid from landfill. That's the reason 99.7% is kept as the maximum limit. But over a period of time, the company is expected to even reduce the 0.3% also year on year, and even the guidelines will also be more stricter in future. So this is one example. I mean, one company, the Godrej Appliances Shirwat, in 2019, they achieved this zero waste landfill certification, but they were in the second level of approaching zero waste landfill. They fall under 97.5% to 99.7%, and all the difficult waste, which is in the left-hand side, like ETP sludge, then polyol sludge, all these things they are trying to send it to the recyclers, or it is at least going for the co-processing or plasma gasification. They are trying to avoid the landfill. Only one waste which is right now going to the landfill is less than 0.3%, but I mean it's about 0.3 to 0.4%. So that also the company is trying to find some alternate. They are working with some of the recyclers on how it can be completely avoided from landfill. And there are several examples. Tata Motors have started the zero waste landfill certification in a big way. They are already working on this initiative for all their plants. This is one of the case studies. This was also shared as part of the working group on waste management by Tata Motors. Foundry is one of the industries where a lot of the foundry sand is generated. It is not hazardous, but still, in terms of resources, a huge quantity of the foundry sand is rejected and it is sent as a landfill. So today, most of the companies are working on how to reuse these foundry sand so that it is avoided from landfill. So here, Tata Motors work with some of the recyclers, and then they are trying to reclaim the waste sand, and again they are trying to use it in their own foundry. In the process, they are able to avoid landfilling of this foundry sand. So already they have recycled more than 4,275 metric ton of this sand. So these kind of projects are being adopted by many companies, many of the engineering, automobile, and the metal industries, smelters. They are all trying to avoid this kind of waste which is going to the landfill and then trying to reuse and recycle for certain useful application. Now let me quickly run through the guideline for water neutrality as part of CA Green Cove guidelines. This is also very recently the expert committee has come out with the overall guidelines. So I'll quickly run through what are the overall guidelines. This is applicable for a facility, or even it is applicable for a corporation also. If the company is having multiple locations, they can also go for this particular certification for their entire corporate. But right now, the focus is all the consumption of water, how they are trying to augment and offset with respect to their own consumption in the plant. It is not focusing on the embodied or the supply chain consumption of water. So it is only for the facility, whatever the overall consumption, the absolute number, if they're able to augment and then offset the consumption of water, then they will be called as a water neutral or water positive company. But moving forward over a period of time, definitely similar to scope 3 emission. So we'll also have a guideline for offsetting the embedded or the supply chain water consumption also. So that will be in future. And similar to the zero waste landfill, there are certain mandatory requirements, right from policies, meeting the regulatory aspects, having top management commitment, and having a clear consumption and monitoring system with a water balance diagram. So here the minimum expectation is 100% of the incoming water has to be metered, and at least 90% of the water should be, I mean, at the consumption level should be monitored. At a user level, it has to be monitored. So only 10% is given as an option. Then also the company has to demonstrate that they are able to reduce their water consumption year on year, at least last 2 years data, and their projects has to be submitted. And similarly, what is going to be their future target and how they are going to sustain. All these things are minimum requirement for a facility to go for water neutrality certification. With respect to water consumption, all the input water which is going into the plant are considered as a water consumption. So it includes the borehole water or the pipe water, which is from the industrial, which is from the municipality or any other outside source. Similarly, if the company is purchasing certain water from through tankers, or even the company is getting a treated water from a common effluent treatment plant or a municipal water which is coming from outside, will be considered as a water consumption. And with respect to water augmentation, it is like whatever they are able to do as a rainwater harvesting, and they are substituting the fresh water by using the rainwater is the first and most preferred option. So that is included. Then whatever the recharging happening within the boundary, so it may be a rainwater harvesting pit where it is recharging the ground. So that again considered as water augmentation. Similarly, beyond the fence initiatives as part of the CSR, many companies started doing several beyond the fence initiatives. So what are the augmentation of water because of this beyond the fence initiatives also included as part of water augmentations. And similarly, the treated water which is going out and it is used by somebody else is also considered as water augmented. So when we compare both water consumption and water augmented, so we try to find out what is the water ratio, which is WR. It is the ratio of water augmented by water consumption. So if a facility or as a company together, if they're able to showcase this water ratio, which is more than 1.2 times, then they're eligible for water positive certificate. And if somebody is between 1 to 1.2, then they are water neutral. And then if they are less than 0.99 and 0.90 to 0.99 is approaching towards water neutrality, and between 0.75 to 0.9 is aspiring water neutral. So for somebody to get the certificate, minimum they have to have this water ratio of 0.75 and above, then they're eligible for the water neutral certification. There are several green co-rated companies, almost close to about 25 plants from different sectors and different part of the country. They are part of the green co. They have already achieved this water neutrality, but several companies also working towards achieving this water neutral status. Before I conclude, I just wanted to highlight the carbon neutral approach, how the green co is helping companies. Of course, the carbon neutral guidelines are under process. It's work in progress. So the expert committee is working on it. But as part of GreenCo, our suggestion or approach to the industry is, of course, globally, I mean, everybody is looking for net zero target by 2040 or 2050. So similarly, we expect the GreenCo companies or Indian companies also to set similar targets. And once you set the long-term target, it's very important to keep the intermediate targets. So it can be 2030 or 2025, and then they should try to achieve those targets. And to start with, we always look for like offsetting first energy, then scope 1 and scope 2, then gradually moving towards offsetting scope 3 or reducing completely the scope 3 emission. So that is the approach we have been suggesting. Obviously, several opportunities available for a company to achieve this carbon neutral status. First and foremost, option is to improve their efficiency and reduce their consumption and ultimately reducing their emissions for scope 1, scope 2. And also look for maximum renewable energy, the use of biofuels or changing from thermal to electrical and electrical with the green energy, then carbon sequestration through green belt development. And finally, whatever small portion which is not possible to reduce, then also the company look for voluntary certificates and then offset those additional carbon. This is our center, Green Business Center, where we are hosting this anti-GreenCo Summit. This is the Green Business Center of CAI in Hyderabad. So this already achieved a status of net zero energy building or energy facility. It's already a platinum rated green building. And in 2019, we achieved this net zero energy building with a bifacial solar installation of about 130 kilowatt and having a net metering facility, we're able to generate more energy than their overall demand on an annual basis. And ultimately, this building has got the net zero energy building status. Our next step is to move forward and then achieve net zero carbon also over a period of time by having more offset of our scope 3 emissions. This is another example from Greenco. This is from Marico in southern part of the country. They have their own offset through wind energy. Almost 42% of their energy is from their own wind farms. And then whatever the thermal energy, they are able to switch over from fossil fuel to the biomass. So that contributes almost 53% of substitution. Then they have their own on-site, which is close to about 5%. And whatever remaining, which is 3%, is offset through renewable energy certificates. And even they're trying to work towards reducing those 3% also, and ultimately becoming a net zero facility. To sum up, definitely pursuing net zero is a major opportunity, and it will drive the competitiveness and the global excellence. Greenco rating is definitely helping facilities and companies to achieve this net zero. Thank you so much. For more information, you can be in touch with us, and then we'll be glad to share any case studies from industry or any other information about these two guidelines on zero waste landfill and also the water neutrality guidelines. Thank you so much. Over to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Muthu. Well done. I think it was a comprehensive presentation. Muthu started with actually pointing towards the industry role for becoming global role model. What he was imbibing upon that idea, what Dr. Hoballa referred particularly was induced actions. I think that is what was the essence of his presentation on water, carbon, and of course, he touched very delicately the subject of waste to landfill. And in that, he covered water very, very precisely the way the headlines of his presentation was. In fact, what Muthu did not specifically bring out was, which was very much embedded in his entire presentation, was that this entire Greenco rating system has evolved over a period of time. It was not the first shot perfection. In fact, exactly 1 decade has been completed now. We are in the lap of the second decade commencing now. All the stakeholders were consulted. The beauty is that our front office, our back office at CII, GVC, majority of them being postgraduates in the specialization subjects like water, energy, and so on and so forth, all the subjects. Plus, industry-aided representatives, numbering 423, were the people who engaged themselves in making a manual sort of a thing or making this entire rating system. Tremendous amount of work has gone, and that way, Mr. Muthu was all through an award. I must say that he was the right person to make this presentation. I am sure that all the participants must have benefited from this. Yes, now the forum is open for questions. Please ask your questions. Please do mention your name. I'm sure, Muthu, I don't know whether we have already consolidated in the right-hand side area of the panel.
Yes.
If so, we can select some questions and deal with that.
Yes.
Because we're just having 5 to 10 minutes maximum.
Yeah, I think one question is, can any industry apply for zero waste landfill certification, water neutrality certification? I think I did mention about this. It's not necessarily they have to be a Greenco rated company right now. Even if they are not Greenco rated, but they are interested in first going through the zero waste landfill certification or water neutrality certification. Yes, they are welcome. They can use this guideline and get it certified through the Greenco assessment panel. That's possible. Then the other question is, are there any validity requirements for those two certificates? Of course, there are. I mean, I've just broadly discussed about the coverage and the approach. We already have a detailed guideline which we'll share it with the interested companies. So definitely, I mean, there is a validity requirements both from the waste disposal aspect or the recycling aspect. Similarly, on the water harvesting and the augmentation and also the consumption aspects. So there are data validity requirements so that the company has to maintain for achieving the certifications. We'll share more information. It will also be available in our website, greenco.in, so interested people can go into the website and download the guidelines and go into more details.
Muthu, any questions for Ajit and Pratyush or Dr. Arab?
Right now in the chat box, the third question is on what are the process for applying? I'm not able to see any other question. Sabyasachi, do you have anything else in the CA Hive platform for other speakers?
Yes, Muthu, there are two questions. One is both are from Dr. Chinaraj from TNPL.
Yeah,
So
please
one
read out.
question is, one question is, can we integrate the circular economy with material flow cost accounting to achieve net zero waste? I think this question, that is also about the zero waste to landfill. And second question is,
That's to whom?
he has not mentioned, but he has given broadly the question about the net zero waste. I think any of the panelists can answer the question. And the second question is, wastewater treated and used for irrigation by farmer, is it considered as a water augmented? That is for Muthu, for you.
Yeah.
Question shall we deal with? Muthu, first question first. We'll go to Ajit and Pratyush and Dr. Arab if they are available.
Yes, sir, they are available, sir. Yes.
Can you repeat the question again for the benefit of the?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The question is, can we integrate the circular economy with material flow cost accounting, that is ISO 14051, to achieve net zero waste?
Yes, I can get to that. I mean, you cannot, you need to measure what you are doing, and otherwise you don't know how to measure your efficiency, how you are better using the material and so on. So circularity in the auditing system, which implies the measuring and measuring and assessing properly what has been done, is absolutely essential. And yes, it can be done. Simply, it requires from the beginning how to effectively start putting the right data, following up the data, and so on, and considering what has been saved from a starting point, and then it gets in the accounting, and you can effectively evaluate properly. So yes, circularity in the accounting system is absolutely necessary, but it has to start from the beginning, not just added at the end.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. So, Muthu, what we will do, with your permission,
Yes, sir.
we'll carry over the balance of the questions with an assurance to all the participants that they can continue addressing their questions to the panelists.
Yeah.
We will consolidate them, refer to the panelists, Ajit, Pratyush, and Dr. Arab, and Muthu, and we'll get back to them individually on the questions asked.
Sure,
With
sir.
the permission of Ajit, Pratyush, Arab, and Muthu, can we close the session so that we
That's
can
okay for me.
virtual exposition? Thank you so much.
That's okay for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, all my co-speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you all. Remain contact. Bye.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Arab. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Ajit and Satish.
Thank you, Mr. Muthu. I'll be in touch with you.
Thank you.